This is a very short poem. It's called Easy E. When I think about heaven, a rose grows inside my brain, thorns and all. It's so painful. At first it's blinding, then my eyes open. Night, and I'm in my mother's kitchen, her child again and nothing else. The power's out, and we only have one candle, but there's light, so much light. This is another short poem. It's Monday, 8:13 p.m. At some point, things begin to lose their meaning, but not completely. Gruzet's broken eggs, where a maid mourns her lost virginity, meant something. Orpheus traveling through hell for love meant something. The church, after a hurricane, lightless and hot, anorexic Christ on the cross. And one day, the voice underneath all the other voices will cry for me to come back, cry like a needy child, like a child being stabbed in the heart. And this is different. This is something about when I was younger. This is Sunday, 1:04 p.m. My roommate is stoned, eating mashed potatoes straight from the pot with a wooden spoon and watching golf on TV. I want to tell him about the mustard seed. Like, Ryan, have you considered the mustard seed? You know, it starts out as the smallest seed, but then grows into the most ginormous plant. Not to convert him, so much as to change the pace of everything in this apartment. As if just thinking so could let enormous vines smash through the floorboards, wrapping around our legs and appliances, and we would be changed. So this is a poem sort of like the same thing. This is Tuesday, 7:22 p.m. One of my students, she wrote, John Lennon was a man of the standard blues. I want to scribble. What the fuck could this possibly mean on her paper? Instead, I just put question marks of increasing size in the margins. I am a coward, even in the service of exposing kids to beauty, which I used to think was my job. Now I think it has something to do with teaching them to survive by being inconspicuous, like immaculate trees that grow close to the ground. All right. Thanks. This is a prose poem. It's called New England. At the height of my new century depression, I got involved in an online game called Dylan Pool, where you'd bet what songs Bob Dylan was going to sing on tour. All the players had handles like the Mystery Tramp and Napoleon and Rag 66. I did badly because I'd always bet on the outliers. Yea, heavy in a bottle of bread, death is not the end. But besides work and drinking in Dylan Pool, there wasn't much else to do. I was sharing a house in the middle of nowhere with a woman more depressed than me. By winter, she was just done with going into town and would send me out in the snow to buy red wine at the general store where they posted the names of customers who bounced checks behind the counter, and the clerk had this weird growth on his arm. We'd sit in the dark to save money, drinking wine from jelly jars, stuffing newspapers and sticks in the potbelly stove to keep warm. We were good at watching the fire, watching the snow pile up, wondering what it would have been like if Mark David Chapman had shot Paul instead, how the world might look different. She wished it was 10 years ago when she could still control men. I tried to tell her about Christ, who I had some dim understanding of at the time, but my words died amid the sparks of our pathetic fire, and I didn't really believe anyone was coming to set us free from the cold and the dark anyway. This is Little Heathen. Ken is doing push-ups on the sidewalk. Ozzy cuts flowers with safety scissors. It's hot enough for that warm garbage smell. I think it was William Burroughs who said we only have war and games, but I say there's also angels of history, like say Marcus Aurelius maybe, or Faye, so condescending and chaste at last year's Halloween party, though dressed up as a sexy Ghostbuster. Appearances mean nothing, but I keep hoping for some modicum of fame that never comes. I should be satisfied with work and those little Walter downloads. And what did my grown-ups used to say about crying? If you look down and have a penis, it's not okay to cry. So I keep on traveling around the sun, watching Hallmark movies with the lights off. Boredom is the most teenage part of me, the part that still dreams, but with less hope now. Too often I'm like the woman at Walmart. The only way I'm getting roses, she rasped, is in a pine box. But when I was 14, I stood on the beach, and it was the summer of '94, and this girl in a yellow bikini, she stepped out of the waves, and no girls talked to me, but she told me. She said Kurt Cobain was alive. She had seen him. Lord, I'm sorry. I'm never grateful, Lord. I just stood there, and the years kept rolling. The years kept eating my stomach lining, as if there'd never been any girl, as if I never heard her good news. Sunday, 3:04 a.m. I'm afraid of wolves and dying alone, but also that plant from Little Shop of Horrors. I'm sorry. I know the movie's dear to a lot of people. When the dawn comes, I should wed myself to the simple romance of an old woman by a fire, carving a potato into the shape of a grenade. Let's go down quick, don't worry. Friday, 8:05 p.m. My date says she doesn't get the Jesus is Lord plumbing van parked outside the Circle K. I don't know what to say. There's a light in some things that embarrasses me so much. I want to protect them from the world. The Rainbow Automotive, the General Dental. This is called the season in heck. I'm going to go ahead and add the Cypress Stump to the list of bars I'm afraid to go into besides all of them. A year without winds or smokes, a year where I used an apple to teach the Trinity to a preschooler and then ate it. My daughter drew a picture of me, hair like silver flames. As art, it was up there, better than Amanda Shaw and her fiddle. Every day is a hot day now, a man sweating in a parked car blasting mashed potato time. There is this life and then my dream life, which only undermines real life and therefore must be stopped. I'll dream about anything. The woman handing out cheese samples at Del Champs. She says panic is a first world problem, but it's a crisis of faith. My whole career a legless dog I have to carry, afraid to drop it. Afraid of time and fate in my body, both disgusting and unreliable. The summer ending makes me want to cry, but I won't. No, let's just make a sandwich instead. Put on a Mojo Nixon record. And already things are a little better. Outside a path lit only by heat lightning, the flashes like a heart beating in the sky. A sign, but I'll need no other sign, no other assurance for this overwhelming calm. Silence and air, earth and sky, the flowers bloom, the dead rise. Right, we'll wind them down.
We have time. There's no one after us.
Oh, okay. Sunday, 8:19 a.m. These are good little tidbit poems. So, they built a Whole Foods on the very spot where in 1998 a girl and I climbed into the back seat of an abandoned car because we had nowhere else to be alone. We drank tall boys, then curled together watching clouds pass overhead, holding each other as sleep sprinkled down. I like this story because it is true, and there is no moral. Just the eye of God, tender and unconquerable. Saturday, 5:13 p.m. I'm wearing a tuxedo t-shirt, straightening a paperclip, just put down my copy of Rich Dad, Poor Dad with the cover torn off. I'm counting the seconds till dinner, rice with onion bits, pita dipped in barbecue sauce, a meal that screams, this wolf hunts alone. If I ever go back on Catholic Singles, I'll post a photo of the fish I caught. Ladies will know I can provide. Somewhere, there's a grown woman with dolphins and rainbows airbrushed on her ride. She wants to sing me long ballads that are really inside jokes. I don't know what we talk about. Maybe Billie Holiday. The way sunlight filters through the trees, as if it was avant-garde. Wednesday, 7:17 a.m. The goths are jogging again. I've seen them before, but now they seem sweet as the first star. 2 weeks sober, I got up this morning thinking of camp, and how kids would wake me up by squatting over my head and spreading their ass cheeks. How they called it red eye. How I just took it. I didn't cry or split their faces open with my fists, like those teenagers 10 years ago split my face open off Magazine Street. Not for money or revenge, but because they could. So now I look over my shoulder at what might be coming, hoping for the ordinary boredom. The green flashed when I closed my eyes too fast. A garden gnome holding what appears to be a trout. The goths of summer, running towards a rising sun. And this is the last thing I'll read. Thank you all for listening. It's called Courtney Love. You can gather up those spiky balls that drop from the sweet gum tree into a baseball cap, if you want. Then, sorry. Anyway. You can gather up those spiky balls that drop from the sweet gum tree into a baseball cap if you want. Then punch the cap so the spiky balls launch and rain down at your feet. It's possible to entertain a toddler for a quarter hour this way, which is important. The toddler will grow up and forget this cheap and graceless game, their own purple-faced joy at the up and down. But you are doing exactly what you need to do. In fact, you are performing amazingly, really, and raising children is a type of performance. Paul says there's affliction, but there's also encouragement, twin realities. The spiky balls popping up and then crashing down is probably closer to encouragement. There's the hope of laughter, which is a sign you've done something right. Paul says if you're not afflicted, encourage the afflicted. But who isn't afflicted, if you count the tears of art and parenting? Maybe put it another way. Consider the wildflowers, the music in parking lots, a toddler explaining gravity. All you have. Find one who has not. Thanks.
So I'm working on a collection of poetry called Black Amphibian. It's done and then it's not done. You know, it's this ongoing love letter that I'm writing basically to New Orleans around my own healing and around falling in love with self and the place you live, right? So it's very spiritually led here. So this is the opening poem from the collection. And Spirit said, "We've taken you to New Orleans, a place where you will give birth to your progress and your pain, where you will learn to create and protect everything that belongs to you, where the storms and the heat and the floods will be what moves you, where you will find love over and over until you change shape and find love fully in yourself, where all the fibers of your heart you will know the value of family and ancestral hands stretching your back, strengthening your back as you walk firmly into maiden beauty. We've taken you to a place where you will see your shadows in order to introduce them to the light, where you will remember how long we have been with you and hear us louder than ever before. Listen." So, Black Amphibian came to me in sort of this, like, how I feel like the black folks that live here are indigenous to both land and water, right? And then inside of my, like, queer identity, I've been meeting all of these shapeshifters. Like, I feel like all of us in New Orleans are kind of shapeshifters in terms of adapting to this crazy place, right? So, title poem, Black Amphibian. Maybe New Orleans calls all black creatures, both male and female, willing to come out amphibious. I think I may be one of you, my Lyft driver says, referring to how I define genderqueer. He tells me he feels like a girl at night and doesn't know why it's so easy to say it to me, a stranger, familiar, transplanted witch on my way home from hustling cartomancy, pulling death, justice, and judgment to a city caught in societal retrograde. And I tell him we are many things, black bodies that change in the safest dead of night. I have been telling us we are amphibious creatures that came from sea adapted to land. And at the bottom of the ocean, we are no color but the metallic light of survival, our mouths dripping the blood of our dead who have since grown fins, never unable or stopped from breathing. We, the shadows, the walking ghosts of our history, fitted with different eyes. And those of us who feel fluid, somewhere between XY and XX, we know each other before we see our faces. I keep drawing in black amphibians searching for home in earthbound sea creatures. The moon of New Orleans hangs her light differently, showing off our scales and the slits cut in our flesh and the anger that sits in us with jagged teeth yearning in this place, hungriest for touch, but only finding hands made of river and rainwater. Okay, so I'm gonna get really real about what it's like to fall in love in New Orleans. And I'm just gonna say it, it's led me to Codependence Anonymous, right? Like, let's really get real about, the toxic sludge that relationships are, and then how this magical place just, kind of peppers the brain. So at least when I'm in the love place, great poems come out. So here's one of them. A trident in the soil. Our crowns burn to remind us of our home planet where we were the sun. Orbs of bright, cool light that longed for touch. Where our feet kissed words into the earth, each step recorded in the soil. Where the sound of your breath told me how much time we have left. I am certain I've loved you before. It's the only way to explain how I feel so deeply now. These poems come from the bottom of my ocean, and you are the first of your kind to gain access there. Because you see the black moon in my lips, the way she calls to be everything. Male, female, creature, human, dark light. You saw her with your third eye the moment I planted my lips to your forehead center. Kissing the earth of you felt like kissing home. I am calling you in my grandmother's voice to tell you how far away you are. You were a soldier for the ocean once, but you are no longer at war. You are not the battleground. I've painted my nails with light to reach into your shotgun body, bring it back aglow so you can find your way out. And this is my last one, just the ultimate love letter to New Orleans. Right? It's called Watch Out, Baby. Be careful, children, don't fall and break the art. New Orleans translation, watch out, baby, you might break something and hurt yourself. So I go as slow as I can. Here, if you walk too fast, you could fall and break a graffitied fence, the one built after the storms, illustrated with one of Oya's many faces, telling tales of how it was once carried away. If you fall, you could trip into a New Orleans pothole, scrape your knees on the gravel and shell-spackled sidewalk that leaves their indentations of sand and sea embedded in your skin. Or you could be walking carelessly and sink right into a pothole abyss. Signs of a city always being reborn inside corruption, and in that underground black asphalt vortex lives all the waters that made history. If you're here long enough, you'll learn to find your fins and swim. You'll learn to keep your head covered and your liquor as steady as possible so rowdy spirits don't follow you back to your house. If you're here long enough, you could stumble into the thick, long accent of the men who call everyone baby, only eat their mama's food, and work so many hours they can't tell the difference between day and night. You'll learn down here the ocean is one long day. If your body breaks, your ashes may be spread at the crossroads to a second line. Tumble with the wind into Armstrong Park and make home in Congo Square, where blood and drums echo in remembrance that we were once property. If your mind breaks, the river water and the heartbeat sun, the dirt and the small baby lizards, the palm trees and the sonicist fingers of humidity, and the dead only you can hear will walk you back home. Watch out, baby, because you could get lost in the bounce of the city, the type of music that turns every slow and somber song into the rhythm of twerking body parts you never knew could vibrate. You could fall drunk and blind on piss-filled Bourbon Street, draining liquids of the forgotten into the machine of the quarter, a low electric current of tourists and city workers, waitresses, tarot readers, and cunning witches. Men spray-painted silver posing for coins, art dealers with forced smiles selling to the highest bidder. Music flowing out of every doorway from all living things. And children who shouldn't be there, seeing the ghosts clearly than any of their earthly guards. You may fall into a po' boy and never come out. You may drown in a bowl of gumbo or etouffee and forget you're still awake. You may trip orgasmically into a bag of hot beignets, cover yourself in powdered sugar, and down the sweet with chicory coffee dancing on your tongue till supper. You may become a wild beast, gnawing and sucking on the head of a crawfish pulled from a 2-pound bag, all your own. You may forget food was ever served cold, and you may be introduced to gluttony without shame. Watch out, baby. You may break everything you know about you into a million pieces and realize that's why you came here, following spirit like an exhale, willing to see what's on the other side of your eternal burning. Watch out, baby. You might fall and break yourself, and you just might like it.
We have time.
Okay, so I'm going to read from Dream Logic because it came out in France in the middle of the pandemic, so it's a rare book. I haven't really had a chance to read from it, so I thought I'd read from it, and some new things. Okay. I'll work from the back here. Okay. Think of all the days you spent before conception. Time was not of the essence, at least not yours. Non-existence had its own fruit, gray apples on gray trees. The fruit tasted of air, and you had no tongue. You had not yet gathered a self. You were an anonymous source. Some people heard you faintly in their pulses. The stars did not come out at night. There were no thoughts, just dots of yellow in the gray. It is what it is was not yet. With so much future, you had nowhere to be. But fingertips called you. The longing to touch holds the pain of an addiction. The symptoms of you were scattered widely. Motes in the sun, pussy ants in the leaves. The notes of a sympathy waited to bring a chord. As soon as you arrived, nothing would stop being. In would rush a world of color. The mother touches your tender skin and smells your sweetness and knows she is real. The Revenant. So a revenant is kind of like a ghost. And there was a movie also called The Revenant.
It was bad.
I kind of liked it. If I come to you in a dream, will you still recognize me? I may be the little dog yapping underfoot to test your annoyance, or I may be an ocean without water or salt, so you might swim in me in longing. In this life, I may often be invisible to you, the weight of a shadow on the ground. Feel me with your thoughts. They are small wooden hammers covered in felt. You can hear notes in your sleep. Alone, I am a minor key. When the kiss of the hammer skips a beat, the stretched string mourns in its pegs. I am just the other side of all music, like a song maiden behind a screen of willows. The song maidens were the ones who had their feet bound. Fun fact. Okay, so this poem takes place in Manhattan. Some of you have been. So it's about the M bus. If you leave the house with only a penny, don't count on painted footsteps to Broadway. There's a stubborn crop of no's between you and the footlights, and your dancing looks desperate. Toes break like tulip stalks in the hot applause. I was waiting for a bus while philosophizing. The M never came. Did that prove the futility of natural logic, or was it a sample of night? I wonder. I wonder and wonder. I'm not getting any older. There seems to be a problem with the time machine. The penny wore a hole in my jeans with its copper ridges and fell out on 42nd Street to the amusement of monkeys. They call it Times Square, but I call it Times Circle. I keep meeting myself leaving the theater younger and younger. When I see me, I dare not say a word. There are poems in that silence I never waste on commonplaces. That is my philosophy, ladies and gentlemen. I worked hard on it, waiting for a bus. Yeah. Okay. So this is called Too Many Questions, and it's for Madame Colette Abouker Muscat, who was a teacher of what they call kitchen Kabbalah, the Kabbalah that was passed on from mother to daughter. And she taught me, she was the first to teach me about the power of visualization. So embedded in the poem is one of her visualizations, which was designed for healing. I'll explain why later, someday. Too many questions. Oh yeah, she didn't like it if you asked too many questions. And she would also say things like, "You have used the word anxiety 3 times in my house." One time, a French guy was visiting and complaining that modern poetry didn't have good metaphors. And I said, well, that's because contemporary poetry uses metonymy. This critic of all modern poetry didn't know what metonymy was. So I tried to explain. I said metonymy is like when you say the White House said today, stuff like that. Madame, who was like 88, said, "My students should be more precise. Metonymy is when the unique becomes the one." That was fucking beautiful. Okay. All right. An old gray crinkled leaf lay on its back at the end of a season of no. I stooped to warm the leaf between my hands and watched it green. What does this mean? I thought. What do I mean? Said the leaf. The snow had no mouth to speak of. What do I mean? I began to wonder. We were all talking at once, and in the confusion, the thought of no returned. I've been in exile, No said, cursed like an unbelieving race. I come to separate with bold black lines. The leaf groaned. knowing it was going to die all over again. Okay, I have not exceeded anyone's limit.
Take your time.
Okay. Will do. Okay, I want to read some, newer ones, unhoused in a book. This is called Over Here, Over Here. Maybe you are telling yourself a story all the time, a little narrative behind the big one called the world. The little one is just a thin thread of voice, like a vein in the wrist. Maybe it is the still small voice disguised as you. Meanwhile, the big world goes on, full of earthquakes and lightning and trembling hairs, their ears alert. The house sparrows bossing all the other birds with their relentless cries in vines and bushes and young trees. I am telling this story myself, but you may listen in. Can you overhear yourself? Are you in my world too? I want you to be real, beloved. I want to love and be loved. But if the world isn't out there, if it all takes place in my mind, which must be true, where else? How my sense of touch deceives me when I touch your touch. And the little voice agrees and tells the story that you are not a story, you are my world. There already. Just when you think there can't be any more, a gray dawn, the fuzzy moon, losing altitude, the hazards of sky, the hazards of breathing. A light comes on in the neighbor's house, and in your slippers, you find the kitchen where it's always been. Just when you think, I am alone, a fuzzy moon in a gray sky, she is there already with an iron pot of tea. Okay. Let's do this one because it'll confuse everybody. It's called Elegant Variables, and it has an epigram, is that what they call it? One of the words I really hate and would like to see abolished is ekphrasis. If I never hear the word ekphrasis again, I will fucking be so happy.
You just said it.
Yeah, fuck ekphrasis. It's a Greek word. Just say you're writing about a picture. It's okay. It's a ekphras. Anyway, that's nothing to do with this poem. Do you write ekphrasis? Okay, sorry, darling. Okay, I didn't mean it. I was just joking. I'm sure the poems are good. In the Elegant Variables experiment, 5 random strangers are assigned one of the 99 names of God. Each goes to a private wood: pines, pond cypress, redwood. They cry and scream until they become the name. Some become trees, beetles afflicted pines, their needles yellowed, they easily burn in massive fires. Saltwater intrusion stunts the cypress, and rising temps drive the redwoods from their sacred abode. They slowly flee north. Me, I sit with the name no one gave me, of. I call out, of, until I become of you, in the truest, only sense of you. We're all of each other, the giant principle of absorptive wonder. I become of everything and everyone until another name appears, two, I call. I am to the earth, to the sun, I am to the molten core of all being, traveling a trail of two, in a stutter of two, to a straight line of two, to the stars. Naturally, these prayers never end. There is and on and on. There is even anon. and soon there is that old standby, one. I stand in one and call to one until one calls me. Many more names than 99. Every word is a name of God. Name is a name, and word is a name. Is certainly a name, and A, oh, the wonders of A, that there can be a pine needle, a leaf, a rootlet, a brook, a you. Knowing that, how can I, and how can I, and how ever read even a simple line of the news. How can I stop listening to you, your every word, whether you babble or speak with the intensest gleam? And how can I touch your hand knowing it is on fire? But I take the chance, and my hand is fire too, and passes through yours, angel to angel, until we are both burning like huge branches of the ruined, sickly pine trees on the slope. The ruined, sickly pine. The trees on the slope burn, the brown rabbits die, their fur ablaze, the whole world burns until we lose our bodies to flame. Our only voices calling, oh God, of, to, in fire, in pain, in love. If I read fast, I can read maybe one more. How about the metaphysics of Goofy? Okay, this is for poet David Shapiro. Bless his heart. No, we love David. When is a dog not a dog? There's a dog in this space named Pluto. Does Goofy walk Pluto? The silence of Pluto hints eternity, though I am allergic to hints. Whether you exist or not, what is absolute? Does Goofy so wonder? Does Goofy know he exists? Mickey's squeak never doubts. Donald's spit-flecked quack struggles. Holding hands, they look to the stars. Does vastness exist, or is it a human construct? Does a duck have hands? Why does he wear a top but no bottom? Is there a bottom to every top? Our concepts, all cartoons, wish hard, dark lines. But they're just ideas, noble or goofy. Dawn hurries to replace us all with light. So the infinite is best known through the infinitesimal, which is next to nothing. That's probably true. Okay. Let me try out the poem one more, one I didn't dare read because I don't know if it's any good. You decide. You ready? Thumbs up, thumbs down, 10, 9, whatever. It's called The Deep Blue. A robin ratcheting her wing by Lake Michigan and faint lick of dawn on a Kyoto sidewalk. I am flying now. I am strapped in. The thud of the newspaper on the brick. A bald man, muscular under his powder blue sweatshirt, swings a heavy pole with light flicks of his wrist. The cows are mooing together all at once, and there's the smell of pig shit lingering in Vermont air from town to tiny town. A woman sits quietly on a soft old pink settee. She's holding a cup of black tea. Faint steam is rising from the cup. She could be anywhere, but she's in New Orleans, and it is exactly midnight somewhere else. A child is watching the eclipse on the sidewalk through the shadows of oak leaves. Someone is lying so badly to his wife, she knows better than to believe. But if there is a God, or there isn't a God, what use is saying anything right now in the splendor of the dream with all its brilliant colors? Or if God is dreaming all this, or there isn't a God, how could we tell with our minds? The digits roll up on the bike lock, and the lock opens, An old man falls asleep for the last time. Yesterday he was laughing in his wheelchair, wheeling himself backwards in the street. He could have died in traffic, but he didn't. Not that way, the old fool. The sky filled with dark clouds, but no mercy came and no rain. She fell asleep on a park bench holding a newspaper, and two little girls laughed when she snored. They were both wearing tartan barrettes, and one was a black girl and one was not. Schoolmates, friends. They ran off to school in late September sun, and the old lady snored, grunted, and woke. There's no hazard in the black clouds but lightning, but the little boy holds sharp glass in his fist. He picked it off the floor for his mother, who is drunk again. The moon is sweeping Germany, and people are remembering. Around and around it goes, a bloated, irregular sphere, with the gravity deeper in the Pacific, and Greenland is melting. In the dream, I said I would stand at the shore. The goddess said, wisely, go for the deep blue.
Okay, this is a poem that was edited out. I gotta stand up. This is a poem that was edited out of my new manuscript, and it's called The Old Gods. We keep the gods at bay by pronouncing them dead, but they are waiting behind oak doors, Jack Daniels neat in a cut glass tumbler, their fedoras ready to tip on the day when we summon them again. Thank you, baby. Okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about the ventriloquism that is poetry. The quote here is from the Theodore Roethke poem, I Knew a Woman. And the epigraph is from Antonio Machado. Before you write a poem, you have to create the poet to write it. This is creating a poem. How do you become 1,000 voices? One by one. Ooh, honey, this bra is killing me. Black lace spirals make a choker as she moves in circles. Ribbon at my waist, jazz hands, can I hip hop? Is my hair a crop cap? I have a soft spot for a guitar in any man's hands. His hat a perfect cover for a loony bin. Ooh yes, I love the dance. A waltz or a gavotte astride a hardback chair. Am I a battle rabbit in a slippery boy's body? Maybe. I embrace everything underwater. Whatever's in my sight line, I plunder. All the muddy clay of Giverny, all the muted light, a snake tree, a ribbon tree, dead foliage at the river's edge. In this story, how many secrets equal how many outright lies? All of them. Who knows what this is except the Southwest, the church, and hopefulness. Greed, lust, envy. The freight train that takes away my sins sings by, full of the Holy Ghost, returned from the Jordan, whistles through the sagebrush, coyotes answer it, one flat car at a time, it passes, rubbed by the gospel. So help me, I can feel this, perched as I am in the bird-heavy dawn. Thus I am absolved of taking the last piece, of eyeing your husband, of filching that turquoise skirt. Rattle, slam, absolution for ignoring the birds, the desert donkeys, the parched coyotes, for misplaced lust, acquitted for commanding the rain from the stone. This train drags my sins away, one sin at a time. Well, this poem came from a fact It stunned me. Darwin was seasick for the entire 5 years. Think about it. On the Beagle, in crepuscular light, wearing his human face, he made preparations for the Epiphany, wrapping himself in the grace of uncertainty. He kept a kind of clenched excitement in his notebooks, as if he knew they were holding a vision disproportionate to their size. Oh well, this is my bad date poem. In the movie referenced is called A Boy on a Dolphin. It had Sophia Loren. It was a thriller, and I've forgotten most of it, except there was a struggle over a statue and lots of admiration for Sophia's body. Okay, this is Bait. What in the name of Sophia's marble boy on a dolphin was I thinking the evening we opened each other up? Easy as a fork in a brick of tinned fish. Easy as picking out the dainty bones from salmon. The meat pink as Phaedra's lips. As the inside of your cheek where a stranger's tongue goes when he lays you down on the dock 100 yards from the party. Or on the carpet in a small room up your parents' hall. A man in a hurry who opens his arms with a flourish, meets your mouth, which is dry as day-old sockeye, and kisses you rosy, kisses you pliant as a coho fillet. And was I thinking that the day after, driving home through a hangover fog, the color of a tin-plated can, my heart black as a dorsal fin, the smell of bait on my thigh. Oh, this is a Halloween poem from long, long ago. Love for the undead. A vampire doesn't appear in the mirror. I adore this knack for antimatter. Confuse one lover with another. Was it the swimmer with kleptomania? Was it my best friend's younger brother? A man on the lam casts a flimsy shadow. Being substanceless has its virtues. For me, true love is 9 parts water. Guys I chat up at the quick stop counter. More transparent than it appears. This is a poem after a poem by Frank Stanford, the lover of C.D. Wright, early suicide, and poet author of The Battlefield Where the Moon Says I Love You. D&D, for those of you who haven't had a spotty past, is drunk and disorderly. This is Juke. If I was sober, I'd lift my head up and look at the mountain. But all I do is beat time to this jukebox and think about the vet tending bar. A crow comes down to bring me the usual bad news, as if she was my Carmelite, as if she was barefoot and I was shoes. Then she throws herself into a snowdrift, body in the snow, black as Frida Kahlo's eyebrow. I reckon my daughter's dead by the look in her eyes, all the good Merlot's gone. I got passed over for the next best job, and I spent my final 5 at this bar where they picked me up last week for D&D. As soon as Dolly Parton's done singing, I'm getting out of here and going over to the Union 5 and Dime to lay my good name down on a new red skirt. Well, every generation has their stories, but we think of our myths and our fairy tales as staying the same. But they don't. They change with us. This is Fairy Tales Now. Fairy Tales Now don't use the word tower or the word magic. They don't mention grandmother, stepmother, roses, or red, red lips. Don't say tragic. Don't describe the woods or throw their braid out the window. never climb a vine or a glass mountain. They could have a vampire, but they never talk about the river, unless somebody drowns. You are too kind. Gotcha. And this is another fairy tale from a book I just finished. Briar Rose. It happened more than one time. In that time between birth control pills and AIDS, it happened over and over. Although it's a struggle to remember any of them, those exquisite boys with their hands in the briars, the young ones with knives, the serious ones in ties, the princes in Levi's, all of them bringing their several and various gifts of flesh, their heat and beauty, their praise from their castle to yours. The frightened ones carrying lack under their tongues like a lead penny. The empty ones come to fill you up with lies. The witchy ones, they're wooing like the 13th fairy's curse. All of them crowding the hedge around your heart with their shears, their crazy desire, and you, cursed, to sleep a while with them while you waited for something you had been promised was love. Come on, Robert, I know you can. Another fairy tale. What do you know? Frog is already elsewhere. Well, I have to tell you that in the original Frog Prince story, the princess did not kiss the frog and turn him into a prince. She threw him against the wall and turned him into a prince, which I think is probably fitting. Frog is already elsewhere. When Frog came knocking, you were shocked, delighted you let him in. Amphibians, sun up, he's gone. Another one-night stand you spin to your family as a miscalculation. This charade goes on until you're fed up with him. You give him a heave at the shutters. Splat! Suddenly, instead of tepid skin and bulging eyes, there's a cold-blooded stranger in your bed. And Frog is already elsewhere. The elsewhere you once found with him on those long nights when you had time to giggle and toss a ball. Now, Frog has become the tick of ice in your glass, the ping of your champagne flute against his. The new Frog makes you uneasy. But your Frog is elsewhere, not in your father's ballroom or throne room, not under the sumptuous pond scum. Frog is not behind the palace, sadly kerchunking. Instead, it's you who cry out and weep for the frog's mouth, for being swallowed whole by good times, enchanted by an amphibian dance band and a green new moon. So this is another kind of fairy tale, I guess. And any women of a certain age Southern women, of course, will recognize this. This is advice. By a lake shaped like a cartoon parrot, we practiced the simple art. I was 17, you were 17 and I was 19, 2 years between us, and then I was 20. This was the first math. It was Arkansas in the 70s, and your aunt said, "Don't grin, honey. You don't want to work your skin like that." She told me, "One day you be dead. But until then, put on some lipstick. Wear you a cute skirt." A long time ago, when I lived in Texarkana, I made a lot of trips to Lafayette. This poem began on one of those trips. You probably have most of the references. Let me say that Bright Star is one of those tiny towns just at the edge of Arkansas where it butts up on Louisiana. And Night Train is a ruinously bad and exquisitely cheap red wine. My South. On the left, the Chefalaya, so black, so burnt inside, silent as a pot. Down here, my lips equal silt and common bliss. Down here I carry my grave folded in my pocket, a cardboard hunger, a box in shards. The woman beside me in this food line wears a skin-tight skirt, has a backdoor man. Down south we have the right to costume and gossip, to numbers and pawn. Down south we observe the bendable rules that stand in for bone. Below Bright Star we have a chicory bias. Low blues and Jolie Blonde are the national anthem. Down here I learned acoustics from Professor Longhair, religion from the Mardi Gras gods, persistence in February's saxophone wind. Like buckwheat in the meters, I adjust my heartbeat to the pulse of the tune. Despite the hunter, I am the snake half of the gator. Despite the facts of jazz, I'm as romantic as a bad house band. I still think of salvation every time. Night train, sugar cane, souffle, étouffée, the key to muddy silence is under my tongue. Where your world gapes open, darling, mine shivers in. I was in school in Vermont, and I was probably the only Southerner there, and I kind of wrote that to explain to them. It didn't explain to them. Okay, I'd like to end with another Ars Poetica. I do what I do. I am a heart in a prison of bone. I am a needle and a ladle. I take my white horse, her hoofs assessing each syllable of air. I take my little can of adventure and lift my head from the wheel of crazy and not enough safety and making the paycheck and stretching the paycheck and hoping to live long enough for the government cheese. I do what I do, don't you? Whatever the dark and the kudzu don't take, I claim. Thank you.